Привет, добрый вечер.
Добрый вечер. Как у тебя дела?
Хорошо, хорошо. Давайте познакомимся. Как вас зовут?
Меня зовут Катя.
Катя, что вы, фамилия?
Моя фамилия Катя Саркисов.
Медленно, пожалуйста, por Brad Soner.
Меня зовут Катя Саркисов.
Thank you, Katia, for indulging me in that wonderful trip down memory lane when I used to live in St. Petersburg and studied Russian. Welcome to Criterium Nation. Now we can do it all the official way where you say, my name is Katya Sarkisov and I race for who?
Hi, my name is Katherine Sarkisov. I race for CCB Women's Cycling.
And we have known each other, or I've been calling your name in various different bike racing forum for easily a decade because you were a junior here in Washington, D.C., and I was the Mid Atlantic Bicycle Racing president and road race guy. And you've been winning bike races since you were really young. How did you get into this sport?
I got into it by joining Rock Creek Velo. It's like a local junior team in DC. And I was on that for a while, just kind of riding with other kids. Yeah, it was a really great way to get into it that way.
And like Rock Creek Valley, I think is something special because it's not just the group of, 10, 15-year olds who are riding around in Rock Creek Park, but it's also there's a great degree of mentorship and camaraderie because some of the women that you're racing with now come from the same Rock Creek Velo, or better yet, some of the women that your sister is racing with now are coming from Rock Creek Velo.
Oh yeah, like most of the girls that are like currently on like DC Devo, a lot of them feed into that program, and I was on that program for a year. Yeah, they all started off with Rock Creek Velo.
And I previewed your sister, Alyssa. She is the brand new U18 national champion.
Yeah, yeah, and the road and criterium.
I mean, that was kind of an expected thing uh, to the extent that one can expect a victory. Did you, going and seeing your sister win in Charleston, come out and say, you know what, mom and dad, I have to do something too. So it's time for me to do something special?
Well, honestly, I didn't have like any expectations for the elite race. I wasn't actually planning on racing it until 2 days before. Like I got done with the U23 road race, and I was not actually signed up at that point. Like Reg was closed already. And I was like, you know what, Tim's the CCB director. I was asking him, like, can you ask if I can get signed up for this? I kind of want to do this elite race now. Like the U23 race, like it went all right for me. Ended up with a bunch sprint. My teammate Cassie got second, and I was fourth. So overall, like good race for the team, but I did want like a little bit more. Um, and like I was feeling good on the climb, so I decided to hop into the elite race, but I didn't have like any expectations for that.
I love when you're like, I was doing okay. You finished fourth in the U23 race against what can be easily described as a stacked field. I mean, you've got Kaya Schmid who finished third, Cassidy Hickey from your team who finished second, and Ella Sabo from Virginia's Blue Ridge 2028 finishing in front of you. None of those women are slouches. So, were you just a glutton for punishment? Was it not enough to go up the Bridge Road and Wirtz Road climbs like 4 or 5 more times?
I think it was just a bit of like a you don't have as much satisfaction when you don't have like a podium from any races, and so I was like, let's still go see if I can improve my like my result from like last year when it was combined with the elites, and like I knew I had better fitness coming into this year, so I thought I could do a lot better, but I didn't really know like what that was like. It's like hoping that maybe I could hang with the leaders, finish on lead lap, because last year I didn't like I got pulled with like 2 laps to go. It was a lot harder last year, starting immediately with the bridge climb, so it was definitely a slightly different dynamic this year. Um, but yeah, really, I just kind of want to like improve on my result from last year.
And you definitely did. I mean, we're not gonna bury the lead here because it's been a month now. You finished 3rd on the podium behind 2 women who are just incredible talents, world tour level bike riders. Um, I want to go back, however, and talk about your fitness because it is undeniable. You are much fitter this year than you were last year, and that's not a discredit towards what you were doing last year, because last year you were on a UCI Continental team, Cynisca. What what have you done? How have you improved off of good?
Well, I think really a lot of it was figuring out like a really good balance with school and cycling. Um, and yeah, like my freshman year in college, definitely did not have the best balance, and I could definitely see that in my like performances. And even like last year, I made like a lot of improvements from that, but I wasn't really back to like where I wanted to be. And I'd say this year is like when I was really like putting the pieces together and also like just enjoying it more, being less, like, stressed out about, like, "Oh, I need to be doing this," and, like, "I need to be getting this, like, result at this race," kinda just, like just liking cycling, yeah.
It's rough when you actually enjoy the work that you're doing, because then it just doesn't feel quite so much like work.
Yeah, yeah, definitely a lot more, like, satisfaction and enjoyment from just the day-to-day training.
So you're a student right now. You're in college at the University of Maryland, which is in a DC suburb in College Park, Maryland. And you've been from this area, but you did, and I want to start mostly focusing on your time at Lux and also with Sinisca. You have gotten an opportunity to go well beyond the United States when it comes down to bike racing. What has it been like to be like, okay, you know what? I've enjoyed Mabra, I've enjoyed the local scene. Let's go test our wings and see what else we've got out there.
I mean, it really depends on the race. Some races, you really enjoy and you're like, "Oh, wow, this is some, like, really big racing," and you can actually, perform there. Sometimes you kinda just feel like you're getting your teeth kicked in a bit, for sure. So it can be quite humbling racing in Europe at times. Um, yeah, haven't really raced in Europe, much this well, at all this road season yet.
Well, you've raced a lot there in 2023, mostly on the U23 circuit, or maybe it was even the U18 circuit or U19 with Laviniere and with a bunch of races in France. And then next year or last year, it was a lot of the Belgian races. Did you find yourself enjoying the racing atmosphere in Europe more than you do here?
I think it really depends on the race. Like when I did Lavinier 2 years ago, the atmosphere there was amazing. You feel like, the people in the towns that you race through really, like, want to see you there, like, there are just so many fans out. It was also the first edition of, like, the women's Lavinier, so that, like, felt super special. Um, yeah, it really depends on the race. Some of the smaller races, like, you kinda just feel like you're a bit, like, in the middle of nowhere, and it's just, like, an insanely hard race, and you're like, "Well, this atmosphere is, like, not the most fun," but yeah.
But did you find it to be challenging to leave home at 19 years old or 18 years old and whisk your way over to Europe where you're expected to athletically perform? Not like a lot of us will go to Europe and do a study abroad for a semester, and it's really just an opportunity for us to drink in new and exciting places and meet strange people and hopefully figure our way back to the hotel or the guest house. But for you, it was just like you need to be at your best. You need to be dialed in with food. You need to be dealing with language barriers and things like that. Because, like, if you get dropped in a Belgian race, you're just like in a Belgian countryside. And if you
Yeah.
don't speak Flemish or Wallonie, you have to hope that the random Belgian farmer that, you're asking for a spare tube from speaks English.
Well, luckily with most of the Belgian races, a lot of them are like big circuits. So even if you're dropped, you can usually find your way back. Um, Yeah, it wasn't really ever too bad. Like when I was on Sinisca and I spent a lot of time in Europe, they set us up pretty well. So they didn't just kind of like buy us a plane ticket to Europe and like, all right, figure out the housing and where you're staying outside of the races. But yeah, especially in 2023, they pretty much had the housing covered for us like every single week between races. But due to that, we were also moving around quite a lot, which made it pretty difficult to kind of train, like, have any consistency in your day to day because everything was just, like, always changing, and so I definitely found that pretty difficult to actually be performing at the level that I wanted to that year.
What is keeping you interested in this sport? You know, through the hardest times, through the downs more than the ups, because it's easy to keep going when you're up. But for a lot of people who've come up through the ranks, when they get to your age, they want to do anything other than what they did as a kid. In my own experience as a swimmer, once I got to be 21 or 22 years old, I was just like, you know what? I am done looking at a black line on the bottom of a pool or at flags above me or whatever it happened to be. I need to do something new. But you just keep doubling and tripling down. How are you keeping yourself motivated?
I mean, there are definitely times where have felt slightly over it in the past, especially when like racing isn't going super great and it just feels like a huge sacrifice and like just kind of leaves me questioning if it's worth it. Um, but it's also such a big part of my life and it's been such a big part of my life. Like outside of just racing, just like so many of the people I know them through cycling. So I think it'd really take a lot for me to leave the sport. And even if I were to, I think it wouldn't be like a fully quit cycling. Like I'd still have to stay in it at least a bit, maybe just like racing less. Um, yeah, so I never really wanted to like fully quit even in like the hard times. But really to help with like the consistency and like to enjoy it. Really just finding a balance with that and just like the rest of life. Like being a full-time student, just finding a good balance with that and like racing and also having like a social life.
What do you tell yourself when you do feel like, it's Saturday morning and you would rather do anything other than ride your bike? Like it's just one of those days where it's just like, I can't do this, but that the gains from that day or that weekend are going to propel you to something like a third place in nationals. What motivates you?
Well, I don't really have too many issues with motivation, like, super often, I'd say. It's more like I just know that I'd feel a lot better if I go out and ride, even if I feel, like, pretty crappy some days, like, just going out and doing my workout just to the best of my abilities. Usually, I'd be a lot happier if I even attempt it than if I don't go at all, and I just know, like yeah, just for me personally, if I just don't go ride, I'd be, uh not super happy with myself, and then I'd be more upset than if I go and actually do the workout, yeah.
What's a training load look like for you? Like, is it 250 kilometers a week, 15 hours? What's the matrix that you look at to tell yourself that you're doing good?
Well, while I'm in school, it really just depends on, like, the week, like, how much schoolwork I have, if I have any, like, exams. Usually when I have, like, midterms and finals, I, like, barely ride, and I'll, like, only stay on the trainer, I, like, won't go outside at all. Um, so it's really not that crazy of hours than compared to some other people just because, um like, I think I just end up hating life if I try to do that and also, like, do school full time and, like, to try to do both well. Um, so I've kinda started focusing a bit more on, like, not necessarily doing crazy hours, but really improving the quality of, like, the rides, and that's, like, really helped a lot with me and, like, with being able to have a good balance with school.
Do you find yourself ever getting out of balance?
Not necessarily. I've learned that like when I try to push through the like really stressful times and if I try to like ride a bunch when I have like a lot of stress with school, it doesn't usually help. Like usually I can't ride well and like I just don't really get that same benefit from that riding because I'm like so stressed out. So I learned to kind of like ease off when I need to because I'm not really going to gain anything from it.
How important is it to you that your sister is involved in this sport?
It's very important. Yeah. Um Especially right now, like, we're actually starting to do a bit more racing together, which is always, like, super nice, and just, like, having so much in common really that we can just, go ride all the time together and, like, she really gets it the same way I get it.
That's interesting because, like, I didn't grow up with older brothers or sisters or younger brothers or sisters. It's the joy of being an only child. But, like, there was never anybody who could open the door for me or make sure that I don't make the mistakes that they made. Have you put yourself in the position for your sister to say, "Oh, no, don't you dare make that mistake. You know, this is something that I learned the hard way. Let me help you so you can go on to make newer and hopefully better mistakes."
I don't know if it's necessarily, like, something she'd be doing that I'm like, "Don't do that, that's a mistake." But I think it is a bit of, like, with my family, like, figuring out, like, what works. Not that I would say I'm, like, the test case, but, uh, like, when to go to Europe for the first time, like, what races to do, things like that, like, at what age you should start doing that, and so I think maybe a bit of that, like, we kinda just, like, learned that on me, but I wouldn't necessarily say there were, like, any huge things that she does, and I'd, like, call her out on it and be like, "Don't do that."
Does she come to
Yeah.
you and say, "Hey, this is what's going on right now. Do you think you can," or let me put it like this, who's the tech guru or the kit guru among you? Like, are you guys fixing your own bikes, tearing them apart, making them work again, or is that like, is that your dad's and mom's territory?
That's my dad's territory, 100%. I'd say a bit more so with her than with me. I could do at least a little bit on my bike. I think she works on her bike a bit less. But yeah, we're not super big on working on the bikes. That's what our dad likes to do.
But that's the joy of getting up the ranks in the bike racing world, is that you have to worry less and less about making sure that the gears work and start relying more and more on your mechanics
Yeah.
and your
Yeah.
Swannies. Tell tell us what it's like to have the support, because like a lot of us, it's like, especially the amateurs and the crit level, you know, you're going around the country and you're flying into Tulsa on Thursday night for a Friday race because that's all the time you can get off of work. And then you have to source food, which normally means you go to Double Shot for breakfast and you maybe go to a grocery store or whatnot. But like when you're on Cynisca or when you're on CCB, there are people out there who collectively are helping you figure all of this out. What are some of the key takeaways from that?
I mean, it really just makes it, like, so much simpler. Like, a lot of times you just have to get yourself to the airport, land, and then, like, they'll pick you up, they'll take you there, like, maybe you build your bike, maybe the mechanic will even build up the bike for you, and, like, you don't really have to worry about, like, anything not working on your bike ever, and you kinda just focus on just, like, the racing and the prep and just things that are, like, in your control. It really yeah, it makes it a lot easier. It's definitely a lot harder when you have to, like, not only worry about your racing, but also worrying about if your bike is working and, like, transportation to and from an airport and, like, things like that.
Yeah, for example, your Di2 shifter is suddenly broken and you're at Armed Forces and there's nobody but Rob Kelly there to help you, and he knows nothing about Shimano, so like you're totally screwed. Not that I've had that experience at all. But um moving on a little bit, I want to talk about Cynisca, because
Mhm.
Lux is an incredible program and it's a program that's designed to graduate people up to the next level. You graduated to the next level and you got to enjoy that time with Cynisca. Why step what looks like back into the
Mhm.
United States?
Well, when I was a junior and I was on Lux, it was mostly like a U23 women's program at the time, like, I was the only junior on it. Um I initially was planning on staying on it, like, for the foreseeable future. I wasn't really planning on, like, stepping up, but then, Lux folded that year, and so it was like, "Oh, I need to figure out team situations,"
Yeah.
and, this opportunity with Cynisca came up, and yeah, I reached out to them and joined that team, and, like, that was great, but I never, like, going into that season or, like, even halfway through that season was really planning on joining Cynisca, um and yeah, it was a pretty big step up, and I wouldn't say it was necessarily a rough time, but it was definitely pretty hard for me at times. And towards the end of that, I think I was a bit over trying to balance like road cycling and school. And I kind of just wanted to focus more on school, and I wasn't really even planning on doing a road season this year. Like I was planning on being in a CXD kit and doing like armed forces and green belt pretty much.
Of course,
Um,
CXD is Crosshair's Devo. It's your cyclocross team. Noted podcast contributor Bill Shiken is the CX part of CX Devo, right?
Yeah, I wanna
Yeah.
say still is. But yeah, so I wasn't really planning on doing that much road, and then Tim from CCB, he reached out to me and, like, asked me if I wanted to join the team because they had a spot, and I was like, I guess, like, it'd be better if I, like, do some US racing and also have a pretty good balance with school, like, CCB is all about that. Like, it was never gonna be like, "You need to come to this race, like, no matter what, like, we're paying you, you need to go to this race." Whereas, like, yeah, on CCB, if I had, like, a lot of school, I couldn't come to a race, and, like, that would be fine. So it was exactly what I was looking for, so it was definitely, let's say, on the outside, a step back, but it really kind of let me figure out that balance with school and bikes and, like, start enjoying cycling more, and I feel like with that, I was able to really, like, improve my fitness a lot in ways I'd never really expected going into the season.
You're killing me. Not only do you go you don't plan on anything and you get this CCB opportunity. You weren't even planning on racing elite nationals, and you just you the day of are like, I'll do it. And you have this incredible result. Are you lucky or am I missing something here?
Well, I'd say the training and the work I put into it, like, always stayed the same. I never really, like, backed off it, and I also had, a much better, like, cross season in, like, 2024 than, like, the previous 2 years, and so that really built up my, like, motivation and confidence going into this, road season. I think it was just really a year ago, I was a bit unmotivated and I wasn't really happy with how racing was going. It just, to me, it didn't seem super worth it to be trying to balance school with it at the same time. So I wanted to kind of back off of it a bit without fully leaving the sport.
What were some of the things that were hard about 2024? Because you did a lot of early season racing. Oh wait, I always hate the European dating system always throws me for a loop because it's day before month as opposed to month before day. So you did a lot of early season racing here in the United States. There's a huge break in the middle of your year, and then you went and did a block of racing over in Belgium.
Yeah.
What's going on in your world that's causing challenges right there?
Um, well, how do I say this? The team didn't really want me going to Europe at all, and so I was gonna not really race at all that summer. But I already had a place booked in Girona, so I was determined to go there no matter what, whether I was gonna race much or not. And yeah, they didn't race me much either way. So it's mostly just kind of riding my bike and hanging out in Girona that summer. Yeah, so it really made me feel like the team didn't even want me to race. They were not interested in re-signing me. I'd also not be able to do school if, like, I even wanted to be re-signed with them. Like, everyone had to move to Europe, and so it just didn't seem like I was able to balance school with that at all. Um, and I wasn't gonna sacrifice that. Um, yeah, so, like, fitness and racing wasn't even going that badly, but I just felt very unwanted by my team and didn't see what other opportunities there really were that I, like, wanted to pursue.
Had you known Tim Mitchell for a while? Because it seems like he came in, not necessarily swept out of the blue and picked you up, but it definitely seems like it was a fortuitous connection between you and this individual who's been kind of synonymous with high-end bike racing in the United States for decades.
I did not know him before. I don't think I knew who he was before he reached out to me, actually. Yeah.
Well, Tim, this is Kat Sarkisov. She's exceptional. I'm glad that you've met her. So, like it's interesting to see how these opportunities are presented throughout life. And you've seemed to have seized on them and maintained positive despite the challenges that you faced. Is there something that you can relate to from the family, from upbringing, mom, dad, sister, anybody that's helping you get through the hard times so that you can succeed? Or is this just who Kat Sarkisov is inside?
I wouldn't necessarily say there's anything from, like, my upbringing that really, uh, yeah, determined this at all. Um, let's say everyone in my family is like pretty disciplined, so it's like if we have something we're doing, like we're gonna do it. So I think that's the only thing like that really made me get through it is just like consistency, like whether or not I wanted to ride my bike or race, I kind of just still stuck with it until get some better racing and you kind of start wanting to do it more again.
Is the racing here in the United States better or what you were doing in Europe? For you, is it better for you?
Mm, I think it really depends on the time. There are times where I like both. Let's say both suit me.
Well,
Same,
like,
yeah.
what kind of racer do you consider yourself to be? Because you have now gotten a very incredible result at nationals, which we're going to talk about in more detail. You were in the fight in Tulsa Armed Forces this year and last year. These are dramatically different styles of racing, styles of race courses, and you seem to excel. Is there a specific type of effort or activity within the bike racing scheme that you find to be really good for your phenotype?
I'd say probably like short, punchy climbs. I'd say I'm like decent at sprinting, but it's not necessarily my strongest thing. Yeah, so like those climbs at Nats were very suitable for me, I'd say. And like some of the days of Redlands this year, um, those also went well. And that's what actually kind of gave me a lot of confidence going into nationals because I knew I was performing well on those sort of climbs. And so I knew that like I could definitely improve my result at Nats this year from last year.
So that was stages 3 and 5 at Redlands. Those, like,
Yeah.
yeah, okay. I mean, it's the Wirtz Road climb that tops out at over 20%, like, at the top. I mean, it's a total, like, kick in the stomach,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I mean, I have trouble when you go from, like, 12 and above. I'm also a little bit bigger than you. We've ascertained that fact by riding together a few days ago. Um, but, like, what are is that the climb that you're talking about? Like, is that short and punchy for you? Because that's grueling for me.
Yeah, I'd say, yeah, probably something like that. I mean, even like the climb, kind of like a crybaby hill. I mean, that's shorter, but kind of climbing, but not super long. Like 1 hour climbs don't really suit me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Crybaby Hill is a 30-second climb. That's kind of broken up into
Yeah, something like
2
that.
parts. Yeah. You've got the part that everybody sees, and then you've got the part up to, I guess, what they're now calling Climax Corner. Is
Oh,
that is
I did not know they were calling it that.
Yeah, so I saw a button on one of the jerseys of, I think a woman from LA Sweat that said "I heart Climax Corner."
Okay, I think actually I did see that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I
Yeah.
want that. I definitely want that. But
That's fine.
so, like, a 30-second to 2-minute long just burst out of the saddle grinding, that's Kat Sarkisov's happy place.
Maybe up to 5 minutes, I'd say. 5 minutes also is not bad. Yeah.
Okay.
So I'd say like
Interesting.
the Bridge Road climb at Nats, that was like 5 minutes at least. Well,
Okay,
you have like the steep part, but then it levels out and it kind of just keeps going, so it kind of feels like more of a 5 minute climb.
okay. Did you do the, criterium at nationals?
I did.
Okay, how
Yeah.
did that go?
Um, it was good. My teammate Cassie won off the front, and we attempted to do a lead out, which we have a little bit of fine tuning to do for that. So I was pretty far back on that because I was just doing lead out duties. And then my other teammate Lizzie got fourth in that, so it was a pretty good day. Yeah,
Lizzie Gonzalez?
yeah, yeah.
Okay. I see her name in cross all the time, but I'm never confident that it's pronounced Gonzalez because there's an S and I'm looking for a Z somewhere in there to make the Z Gonzalez sound. So, and plus, I don't trust any of the European commentators to correctly pronounce any of our names in
That is true.
cyclocross.
They do
So,
struggle with them sometimes.
the best I've ever heard was them trying to pronounce Avolo.
What did they say?
It was unrecognizable, just absolutely
Mm.
unrecognizable. So, I'm not even gonna try, but, the guy speaks Dutch as a first language, so I'll let it slide, right?
Yeah, you can let that slide.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's talk about, you know, building a team with CCB. So Lauren LeClaire, I love her to death. We've known each other for years now. She's really stepped forward as kind of not just the team owner, but really like the team matron. And
Mhm.
she's brought you women together, but none of you are local to each other, right?
Yeah, I don't think any of us live within, like, an hour, really, of each
So,
other.
how do you learn to do the details? How do you learn to do the lead outs and learn to rely on each other in different positions and in situations and learn what words make sense to the other person in the heat of the moment? Because when your heart rate's at 180 beats and you're like mouth down on the top tube, you don't get a lot of like detailed discussions with your teammate to be like, I need you to do this. It's one or two words. How are you women coming together to learn how to be a team when you're so far apart?
We did have a pretty short, team camp in March. It was, I wanna say, like, 3 days. We couldn't really do much more than that because all of us are in school, and we couldn't just miss a week of school. Um, yeah, so there we worked on some of that stuff, but mostly it's, like, from just doing races and then having debriefs after the races to talk about, like, what went well, what didn't go well, and really just learning from that.
How does a debrief work on a legit team? Because like the teams that I have been a part of and I've seen do debriefs or even pre-ride meetings, it's a lot of aspiration and then a lot of negativity on the backside. And that's really grinds you down when it's like, you should have done this or you should have done that. I can't believe and like how does it work obviously constructively for you?
On CCB, at least, we do this thing called a one-on-one, so or one-in-one. So we talk about one good thing and one bad thing, we just go in a circle and talk about that. Um, and yeah, because of that, you never get too negative while still, having some constructive criticism and seeing where you can improve. And with that, I found that we don't have any issues even if the race didn't go well for the team. Like, no one is, like, super upset and, like, people are crying in team meetings or anything like that. We can still focus on, like, what went well even if the result on paper is not great.
Can you give us an example of what is not necessarily a specific example from a specific race, but what is a one-on-one? Like, what's a good negative and a good constructive?
Let's see. Well, it could be really anything. It could be as little as, "Oh, I felt good today." That could be, like, a good thing, or, like, you did your job, or, like, you got a really great result in that race. Maybe, like, a bad thing would be, like, maybe if you had to be higher up in the field to, like, chase down attacks at a certain point in the race and you weren't able to make it up, like, that could be a negative, or, like, maybe you just didn't feel great. It could be anything like that.
Are these like my one-on-one would be things for positive for me and negative for me?
It could be, like, I mean, usually it's related to you, but it doesn't have to be necessarily personal. It could be also just how that worked with the team.
Okay.
Yeah,
So let's talk about the Nationals road race, the elite road race. You all started super early in the morning. By my standards, I don't wake up
it
easy.
was very early.
Yeah.
It was early.
Uh, but at least you got into the heat of the race before the heat of the day. So that sounds like a
Yes.
good thing, right?
Yeah.
Unlike the men who just suffer through everything all the time in Charleston, West Virginia, whether it be rain or heat. I'm sure eventually it'll be snow too. But where did the first critical moment in that race come in your mind for you?
First critical moment. I want to say the second to last time up the worst climb. At one point, we, like, really hit it, and there was a small separation of me and six other riders. So it was like Kristen, Lauren, Elise Shafi, I wanna say, Alexis Magner, Natalie Quinn, me, and Kat Rush, I wanna say. Think that was the group, and, it didn't, like, stay away for long, but that kind of gave me the confidence of knowing, like, "Oh, I'm, like, one of the best climbers currently in this race, like, I'm feeling good today." And then that came down, but then the next time we hit the bridge climb, that's when, like, we really got, like, that break.
I mean, you're already one of the elite bike racers in that race by the fact that you have made it that far. I mean, nothing about this race was in any way, shape, or form easy. I mean, there were 55 women who, or actually 58 women who started that race, and quite a few of them are listed at 7 minutes and 44 seconds back on the finish, meaning
Mm,
they did not make it to the final lap. Yet
yeah.
here you are in a group with Lauren Stevens and Kristen Faulkner, who's a Olympic gold medalist and also the current reigning, or at that time reigning, U.S. champion, plus Alexis, Emma Langley, who's a former U.S. national champion, and Aaliyah Shafi, who's been just absolutely blowing it up this year all over the country. Was there ever a moment in time that you felt like you were an imposter, that you didn't belong?
I wouldn't necessarily say like an imposter moment, but there was definitely like a moment when we were descending from the bridge climb when I made that like selection with Lauren and Kristen, and I like nearly got goosebumps because I was like, "Oh my gosh, I'm like here right now." So it's definitely a bit surreal, but I wouldn't necessarily like say there was any like imposter syndrome or anything like that.
Were the 3 of you, once it established as the 3 of you, because it was that way for a few miles, it wasn't just like the last 5, but,
Yeah.
as you were establishing, was there communication between the 3 of you? Like, you know, Lauren and Kristen being older than you, were there any, like, guidance pointers, or were you just, "Let's stay here and focus and go straight up the road?"
There wasn't a crazy amount of communication. At one point, I asked Lauren what the gap was. That was about it. I also was teammates with Lauren last year on Cynisca, so she was a bit of a friendly face to see. Like I already knew her. But yeah, not a crazy amount of communication. We kind of like once we got into that group of three, we immediately just kind of started rotating because we just kind of knew what we had to do.
Did you think getting into that group of 3 that you had a chance of beating the 2 of them?
No, I
Okay.
didn't. I didn't. I thought it was very unlikely, and I already knew I was like my max effort was kind of being in that group. Um, yeah, I don't really think, I thought I could beat any of them.
But I mean, like, for most human beings, if confronted with a situation where your max effort was to just be there, you would just be there. You
Yeah.
took polls with the 2 of them. I didn't have a stopwatch on it, but it sure as heck looked like it was equal time or equal effort, under the situation. It wasn't like you were slouching at all. Um, were you intent on impressing, or were you intent on just earning your spot there? Or what was it going through your mind as you're like, okay, 2 of the best women in the country, and if not the world, I'm just going to ride with them?
Well, at that point, like, I didn't really know what was gonna happen, but all I knew is I just wanted to do my best to make this stick, and I definitely couldn't, like, 10 miles out, start not pulling through or doing, like, weak and short pulls because that's just gonna get me dropped from that group because 'cause they're gonna just attack me at some point. So yeah, I knew my best bet was just, like, working with them and just doing what I can to stick with that group. At that point, I wasn't really, like, thinking ahead of, like, "Oh, maybe I could get, like, 3rd." Like, before we hit the Worth's climb, I didn't wanna get ahead of myself too much because there still was a lot of miles to go, and I was already hurting pretty bad. Um, yeah, so I was kind of focusing in, like, the moment of just, "Let's see how far I can make it in this group and, like, pull through here."
Was there a point in time that you got actually comfortable with the idea of being there, and with the idea of, you know what, getting on the podium at nationals, this is awesome. I'm good.
Probably the only time I never really got comfortable with it because then once we hit the Worth's climb, I got dropped from that group and, like, caught onto them, but even when I caught onto them, the group behind us was, like, very close.
All right.
So
Galen
I
finished 6 seconds behind you.
Yeah, yeah, so I think it was, like, when we had 3-ish miles to go, it was maybe 10-second gap around there, so I didn't wanna get comfortable with it or, like, expect anything. I definitely, like, realized, "Oh, this is, like, there's a possibility that I could, like, land on the podium here, but I didn't wanna get too comfortable with it because the group was very close by, and, it looked like a pretty big group just glancing back a couple times.
Now, did you afterwards, and when you got back into the city of Charleston proper, were you continuing to work at that point in time, or were you like, you know what, I've been dropped once.
Mhm.
I'm gonna, you guys are gonna fight it out between you two, and I just needed to make it to the last corner.
I still kept pulling through because, like, once I got there, I realized my best chance of making the podium was making that group stick away from the chasers. Um, yeah, so actually you can probably see me pulling through and leading out the sprint, as you never ever do if you want to win the sprint. Um, but at that point, I realized I just didn't really have much sprint left in me. Like I knew how I was feeling. Like I felt good on the day, but that was like a lot for me already. Um, and so I knew my best bet was just leading it out and trying to get enough like room from the group behind us because I didn't know how fast they were going to be coming, behind us, and it would be pretty heartbreaking to lose a podium spot because 'cause we're playing some games and the chasers catch us.
Did you keep going as hard as you could all the way through the finish?
I think in the last, like, few meters, like, once I realized there was a big enough gap, I backed off because I they were Lauren and Kristen were way up ahead. They were way far behind, so I was just like, "Okay, I secured my podium."
What was the first place that, I mean, you only, according to the results, way far ahead was 2 seconds.
Yeah.
That's the official time split. I mean, I know 2 seconds looks a lot different, when
I mean, it was a pretty big gap. I got pretty much smoked in that sprint, but I knew I didn't have any, like, sprint already going into it, just given the fact that when we went up the Wirtz climb, when Lauren attacked and it was like you really had to punch, like, I got dropped from that pretty quickly. And so, yeah, I just knew it would not be smart for me to try to play some games because, like, the chasers might be feeling a lot better at that point for the sprint.
what was the first thing you did after you crossed that finish line? Where was the first place you went?
Um, well, I met all my teammates and I was also crying a bit because I didn't expect that to ever happen. I was like very shocked. Um, Yeah, my parents were there too, which was really sweet. They weren't planning on staying that day, because I wasn't, like, planning on racing, but then they extended their Airbnb. No, actually, they got a different hotel because they couldn't extend their Airbnb. And so they were there. They were very surprised. They never expected that, to happen, and because I was crying, my mom asked me, "Are you happy or sad?" I was like, "I'm definitely not sad right now." Like, I didn't really think I did not think I was gonna be winning that. But yeah, that was pretty funny.
So, I mean, like, you get on the podium, the champagne is flowing and the medals around your neck. Yeah. Is there a point in time where there's a realization of, "Oh my god, I really actually just did that," compared to, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna podium." Like, that extra level of, "Holy cow, this is something bigger than I was expecting when I woke up this morning."
Well, it pretty much as soon as I crossed the finish line, I kinda got that moment. I was like, "Oh my gosh, this just happened." Like, that's crazy. Um, yeah, on the podium at that point, it, like, kind of, like, already sunk in a bit, let's say.
Did you, like, this is this is probably a stupid question, but it's one that I feel like when you are on the podium and you're at the professional level, appearance matters. You got to make sure your ball cap is correct, or that the jersey looks good, or that all the snot has been wiped off of your face, sort of thing. Did you have like a spare jersey that you put on that was like a fresh jersey? And, did you put the sunglasses on, or are sunglasses verboten in podium pictures in your world? Is there like a pro guidelines for what you're supposed to do when you're on the podium?
I mean, a lot of times on other podiums, I would change it to, like, a clean kit, especially for cyclocross. I'm thinking of, like, mostly about cyclocross because 'cause you're just covered in mud and can't even see, the sponsors or anything. I did not change it to a clean kit because they were just doing podiums, like, immediately after the race, like, I didn't really even have time to run to my car. Maybe I did, but I didn't wanna, like, try to, push anything and have everyone be waiting on me. Um, I'll do glasses usually, promote the sponsors and stuff, yeah.
Yeah, I'm actually looking at the photo that Kai Caddy took of you, Lauren, and, Kristen on the podium, and, is that the first time you had ever held a champagne bottle in your hand? Because it sure looks like you're,
Yes,
like,
yes.
confused about what
And
you're supposed to do.
I did not know what to do. I had to ask Kristen, for, step-by-step instructions, on how to pop champagne because I was like, I don't know how to do this at all. I've never popped champagne before, yeah.
That's so what were the instructions, just out of curiosity?
The instructions were to, shake it a lot and, yeah, then just get it off, and then, cover the, like, opening with, your thumb,
Y
basically.
like
Yeah.
it is for, like, a garden hose or something like that if you're
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, I do that. But mostly it was, the shaking before you open it that, I didn't know. I didn't even really know how to open it. It took me a while to get it open.
Did she tell you to point it away from your face too?
She did not, but I did have enough sense to know, don't point it at your face because I don't wanna, almost lose an eye like
Who
some other
who
people have.
who was that? Was that Wout or some I can't remember what
I
pro
think it was,
cyclist.
Biniam.
Oh, Girmay.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes, at the
Yeah, Gurmai.
Giro a couple years ago or something like that.
Yeah, so I was
Yeah.
like, I'm definitely not having that happen. I'm not gonna point it at anyone's face.
That's
Yeah.
um, you had to go back to your own personal car. That's great. No team bus, no nothing fancy. This is 100% an American bike racing story, and that's the best part of the whole thing.
Yeah.
So, you know, flash forward a little bit, you're now racing armed forces in Tulsa. Are you feeling a different sense of your place in the peloton based on the fact that you're Katherine freaking Sarkisov, you're the girl from the podium, like, are you getting a little bit more respect?
Um, in the crits, I'm not so sure just because it's a very different crowd and there's people with very different strengths. Definitely, I have more confidence, going into races. Um, but I don't think, a crazy amount has changed, especially in, just, the crit scene. Yeah.
I mean, as a crit racer among the women, you are demure in stature. You're smaller than the Kendalls and the Alexis's,
Yeah.
not by a whole lot, but do you feel like going between those two parts of our sport that there is a little bit more pushing and shoving and fighting for, I don't know, the right to have the spot in criterium racing?
Yeah, and that is something I struggle with a bit sometimes, just, the pushing to, maintain your spot, so I do feel like I get, kind of the washing machine effect quite a bit. Um, but yeah, I also am, not super willing sometimes to, be super pushy, or maybe I am, but I get a little freaked out almost, I don't wanna die in a corner. I'm not ready to lose my teeth like many people have before at, Tulsa, for example. Yeah.
That's
Whereas
the
in road, it's a little less of that. Usually you just go up the climb and you kinda just have to go around people. That's it.
yeah. But you did it. I mean, you were on the front at Tulsa on the first night. I mean, I've got video evidence of you chasing Chloe Patrick down and, trying to set up your teammate Cassie. And I'm going to ask you, why is Cassie the selected rider in that situation as opposed to you? Is she that much better in sprinting?
Um, I would say so. She's been having a really good, season so far when it comes to crits and sprinting. She got 3rd at the Redlands crit, won the green jersey, got 2nd day 1 of Armed Forces, and is, U23 crit champion. Um, so yeah, it's definitely, she really, wants to be that leader there too. And so, I'm happy to, help her achieve help her in getting that podium spot at Tulsa, yeah, and any of these crits.
So how did Tulsa go? I mean, you did well last year. I want to say overall, I feel like this year was an improvement over last year for you.
Yeah, last year was, it was alright for me. I got into that big crash where, there were, 40 people
On
on
the
day
first
1.
night? Yep.
Yeah, and, I was fine from it, but, definitely not super great, having, like, DNF'd day 1, you're kind of fully out of, like, any, like, Omnium or anything like that. Um, yeah, this year went really well for the team, especially. Cassie got 2 podiums, I ended up also 4th on Crybaby, which was super exciting. Yeah,
Yeah, I gotta talk to you about Crybaby, but before we get there, I wanna ask you about the Omnium.
yeah.
I was having a conversation today with some other folks about whether or not in a Criterium series, so Chicago Grit, Tulsa, Toad, Gateway, whatever it happens to be, whether or not the Omnium is something that you go into the series caring about, or whether it's something that you decide to care about after you started.
I mean, you'd start caring about it, let's say, after day 1 a lot, especially depending on how that goes, but a lot of times if you're, like, the main, like, person that the team thinks they'd be working for, you go into it, like, caring about it, especially at these races like Tulsa, it does have, like, a pretty good payout for the Omnium. I wanna say it's, like, just as big as, like, all the days, so it is something that you consider.
Does does the money matter?
I mean, it doesn't, like it's not everything, but it definitely, like it doesn't hurt.
Because I mean, I talked to you before the first day at Armed Forces, and I don't remember which one of your teammates it was, but it kind of sounded like it kind of sounded to me like back when I was in college and I was racing, where it was like, guys, if we don't win this race, we won't have gas money to get back to Lawrence. Maybe we should do something good. I mean, when you guys have a race, does the money get divvied up? Does it go back into the team? What does CCB do with the prize winnings?
We all split it evenly amongst, everyone that raced. Yeah.
So it's a nice chunk of change for somebody who's a student.
Yes, it is.
So it should definitely encourage you to get 4th
Yeah.
place on Crybaby Hill.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Um, I have never personally performed particularly well at Crybaby Hill. Um, the first year I did it in 2009, I feel like I was doing really, really well until the moment that I wasn't.
Mm.
And that's the kind of race that it is. From the inside, can you describe what that experience is like?
It's, like, epic. I love the atmosphere there. It's just kind of a
Okay.
bike race and a party, basically.
But as far as like the physical effort, because I mean, it's a 30-second long hill on a
Mm.
roughly 2-minute long course. So you repeat the hill every 2 minutes and you get a little bit of time to rest. And then you have to, like, by the time you're back down on Riverside Drive, you've got to do something again, right? You've got to be prepared to go up that hill.
Yeah, I mean, there's also a pretty long, like, finish straight and descent, so you do get some recovery there. Um It's definitely hard, but sometimes, on certain laps, they don't, like, gas it full out. It is also a type of effort that, um, I'd like to think I'm pretty good at, so, I mean, it's hard, but, like, doable for me.
I more power to you that it's doable for you because it's I need to lose a lot of weight in order to make that doable for me. But it's also not a hill that favors just the featherweight, you know, bike rider. There's a power to weight or power to effort ratio that some people just seem to be capable of doing. And I got to give you like huge props for being able to do it because in your race, it was clear to the spectators that Kendall Ryan wanted to win that race more than anything else that day.
Mhm,
Like it's her personal white whale. She's
mhm.
never won that day. She's won the prior 2 days. She's won almost every race in the country. And so Laurel and Holly, her teammates, were definitely fighting to keep her or put her in a position that was going to win. And she played her cards pretty well until about 2 to go when Lauren Stevens did Lauren Stevens things. She just went to the front and absolutely gassed it. And the only person that was capable of going with her was Alexis Magner. Andrea Sear was a gap distance behind, and then the rest of
Mhm.
you. How hard an hour plus into the race is a move like that?
I mean, it's pretty dang hard. Yeah, let me tell you that. But I gotta say, with the atmosphere on the actual hill, it kind of makes the whole effort a bit easier. I think without the like insane like energy there, it'd definitely be a lot harder. But there, like you don't even notice like how hard you're going a lot of the time because it's just like so loud there, and there's just like so many people cheering you on. Like it just like makes you want to go.
Including those weird people who were in the back of, like, a dump truck or something like that. Did you see those folks?
I did not know.
Yeah, see, you were going too hard. You weren't paying enough attention to the weirdness that was around you. Or my personal favorite, Brad Huff in an American flag Speedo. That was really great.
I think I might have seen that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's something that will never be unseen, but in a good way. So, the last lap, the last time up Crybaby Hill, Kendall goes to the front to try to set her own pace because the best defense sometimes is offense.
Mhm.
And, things play out. What happens next as you guys are going up that hill?
I mean, pretty much at that point, it's kind of like all out. That's like the fight to the last turn. That's not really the last turn, pretty much. You're just kind of fighting to get to that second to last turn, like when the hill ends. Um, yeah, at that point, like I wanted to help like position Cassie and lead her out because she was pretty close to third in Omnium. I want to say she was like 3 points behind at that point. Um, but she was on, like, the completely opposite side of the peloton, when we were going up, and I was like, "Oh, this is not great." But it worked out as we, like, went through that second to last turn, and she, like, came up to me, and she just slotted in, like, right in front of me, and so she ended up 3rd, I was 4th, and that also, like I was, like, a bit of a buffer to anyone else that was, like, close in Omnium with her. Um, yeah. I wouldn't say there was, like, hesitation, but there was definitely a bit of, like, a, "Where's my sprinter?"
It's
moment,
amazing
yeah.
that you can still look for a sprinter at that point in time in that type of a race. So, she's clearly not just a sprinter, is she?
No, no, she's very strong, yeah.
So, and that last corner, it's a sweeping into a 90-degree corner. So there's like a lot of extra going on. And from the top of it, when you're looking down, it's an intimidating piece of real estate to see what you're about to do. Did you have a plan for going into that final corner?
Not really. Um, I just didn't wanna crash in it. It's pretty off-cambered, and I saw quite a few people in the race at one point skip their wheel. So go through it with enough speed that you're not, going 2 miles an hour, but don't overcook it because that would be, painful and also slightly embarrassing.
Well, I mean, you could just hop the curb like Garrison did multiple times.
I didn't know he did it multiple times. I saw one video of
Yeah,
him hopping it.
that was
That
pretty
also
good.
not be that would not be super great for the sprint either. You're probably gonna be losing a lot of spots doing that.
But, you end up crossing the line 4th. Cassie's just right in front of you, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So, it's a CCB 3-4, which is huge for this what can be described in some ways as a smaller team, or it's not 2028, it's not Cynisca, it's not the giant that is Legion. You know, I've seen CCB, or what was Levine Law Group, grow up over the last 5, 6, 7 years, and you guys are the pinnacle of this organization as far as the history of it. Is that something that resonates with you? You guys are pulled this team to its top.
Yeah, it's definitely more of a development squad and has more of that vibe compared to some of these other teams we're racing with. But especially at like Tulsa this weekend, felt like we were getting more respect as a team because, I mean, we were all there. Like all of us were capable of doing like significant work, in the race, and like we had Cassie who's like finishing really well. Yeah, so definitely felt like we're like bringing it up, which is like a really nice feeling. Yeah.
Yeah. What happens next for you? Where does this season take you?
Next for me is Volta Portugal with USA Cycling. That's beginning of July. It's like a 5-day race, I think. Then after that, Lavineer at the end of August, and then I have World Championships in Rwanda, which is very exciting.
Interesting. I've never been to Africa. I've stared at it,
Yeah.
yeah, but never been to it, so that'll be fun. What about on the domestic scene? Are we gonna get to see you domestically?
TBD still. I have a pretty big gap like in my racing calendar, like July and August. I have like a month and a half where I'm just gonna be at home training. So I might just hop into some like local men's races or something like that. Uh
I'll tell you quick, there are no local men's races at that time of the year. You are more than welcome to come to Chicago and do Chicago Grit.
that would be super fun. It depends on, yeah, if I can make that happen, maybe if any of my teammates are going. We'll see. I still need a balance working out my internship, so it also gives me plenty of time to work on that.
What are you studying?
I'm studying computer science.
What do you wanna be when you grow up?
Software developer.
Okay,
Yep.
that's pretty impressive. It's not anything to do with bike racing either, or are you gonna
Nope.
develop bike racing software?
I did want to intern at Zwift this summer, but they were unfortunately not doing internships. I reached out to like quite a few people about that, but that didn't work out.
Well, maybe we can find
Maybe one
you.
day.
Yeah, maybe somebody listening to this will be like, "You know what? I need a young software developer and I'm in a bicycle startup," That's always great. So,
Yeah, that would be like a dream. It's like my two like main things together.
well, Kat, thank you so much for joining us. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you so much for having me.